If you are a green card holder, a lawful permanent resident, or someone waiting for immigration approval, you may have seen alarming headlines this week saying that green card holders must report by March 15th or face removal from the United States. Those words are enough to make anyone panic. You might be wondering right now, is this real? Do I need to do something immediately? Am I in danger of losing everything I've worked so hard for? Take a breath with me for a moment. The internet has a way of turning routine immigration updates into terrifying breaking news. And when it comes to something as important as your status in this country, fear spreads fast. But fear and facts are not the same thing. In the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through exactly what this March 15th deadline really means, who it actually applies to, and most importantly, who it does not apply to at all. By the end of this video, you will know with complete clarity whether this situation affects you personally or whether it is simply another exaggerated headline causing unnecessary stress. There is a lot of confusion right now, and I know many of you are anxious, worried, and even losing sleep over this. You deserve calm, honest, straightforward information, not rumors and speculation. So stay with me because what you hear in the next few minutes could save you from a lot of unnecessary fear and possibly from making a serious mistake based on misinformation. Hi, I'm Sophia, and my goal is to help immigrants and their families understand complicated immigration news in clear, simple, human language. I know how overwhelming these updates can feel, especially when they involve words like removal, deadlines, and reporting requirements. I'm not here to scare you, and I'm not here to give legal advice. I'm here to break things down step by step so you can separate truth from panic. Everything I'm going to share with you today is based on official policies and publicly available information. If you ever have a personal legal concern, you should always speak directly with a qualified immigration attorney. But right now, let's focus on understanding what is really going on. Because for most of you watching, the reality is far less frightening than the headlines make it sound. Let's get straight to the most important question. What is this March 15th deadline actually about? The short answer is this. For the vast majority of green card holders, there is no new rule, no new law, and no sudden requirement to report anywhere. Nothing has changed overnight. What is happening right now is that certain immigration agencies have been reminding people about rules that have existed for many years. These reminders sometimes get picked up by news outlets or social media accounts. And when they are shared without full context, they quickly turn into scary, misleading headlines. That is exactly what has happened here. There is no mass process beginning on March 15th to remove green card holders from the United States. There is no nationwide order telling lawful permanent residents to show up at an office or submit new paperwork. What exists instead are long-standing immigration rules about maintaining permanent residence in the United States. Under U.S. immigration law, a green card is meant for people who truly live in America as their permanent home. If someone gets a green card and then spends most of their time living in another country for years, immigration authorities are allowed to question whether that person has effectively abandoned their residency. This has always been the law. The March 15th date that people are talking about is not a universal deadline. It is connected to specific individual notices that were sent to a small number of people whose travel history has raised concerns. That is a very important distinction. A personalized notice sent to a specific person is not the same thing as a rule that applies to everyone. Now, let me make this part extremely clear because this is where most of the confusion is coming from. If you are a green card holder who is living in the United States, working here, paying taxes, raising your family, going about your normal daily life, and you have not received any official letter, email, or notice from USCIS or Customs and Border Protection, then this March 15th headline does not apply to you at all. You do not need to report anywhere. You do not need to call USCIS. You do not need to schedule an appointment. You do not need to submit extra forms or documents. You can continue living your life exactly as you have been. Simply traveling outside the United States for vacations or family visits does not suddenly put you in danger. Taking a trip to see relatives for a few weeks or even a couple of months is completely normal and fully allowed. Going abroad for work conferences, business meetings, or short assignments is also normal. None of that triggers any kind of removal process. The only people who need to pay close attention are those who have actually received an official government communication telling them to respond by a specific date. Without that official notice, there is nothing for you to do and nothing for you to worry about. I want to repeat that one more time because it matters so much. No letter means no problem. So, who does this situation actually apply to? It applies to a very small group of green card holders whose travel patterns have raised questions about whether they are truly living in the United States as permanent residents. Remember, a green card is not just a travel document. It represents permanent residence in America. That means the US must be your primary home. When someone spends long stretches of time outside the country, especially more than 6 months at a time, immigration authorities are allowed to ask whether that person still intends to live here permanently. For example, if a green card holder moves back to their home country, builds a life there, works there full time, and only comes to the United States once or twice a year for short visits, that can create serious concerns. Or if someone leaves the US for a year or more without getting a re-entry permit, that can also trigger questions. In those specific situations, immigration agencies may send a formal notice asking the person to explain their absences and to prove that they have not abandoned their permanent residence. Those notices usually include a deadline to respond, and that is where dates like March 15th come from. But these are individual case deadlines, not a universal rule for everyone. The important point is that nothing happens automatically. A person is not suddenly removed without warning. Everything begins with an official letter sent directly to that individual. Let me put this into real-life terms so it becomes easier to understand. Imagine two different green card holders. The first person, let's call her Anna, lives in Florida. She works full-time, pays her taxes, and has built her life in the United States. Last summer, she traveled to her home country for 3 weeks to visit her parents, and next month, she plans to take a 2-week vacation abroad. Anna has never received any letter from USCIS about her status. For someone like Anna, there is absolutely nothing to worry about. She does not need to report anywhere by March 15th or by any other date. Now think about a second person. We'll call him Daniel. Daniel got his green card several years ago, but soon after that, he moved back to his home country to run a family business. He has been living there for the past 4 years and only comes to the United States for a few days each year to keep his green card active. Immigration records show that most of his life is now outside the US. In Daniel's case, immigration authorities might send him a notice asking him to explain why he has been absent for so long and to prove that he still considers America his permanent home. If Daniel receives that kind of letter, he must take it seriously and respond before the deadline. Do you see the difference between these two situations? One is normal life and normal travel. The other is a pattern that suggests possible abandonment of residence. Understanding that difference is the key to understanding this entire issue. Now, let's clear up some of the biggest myths that are spreading online, because misinformation is the real reason so many people are afraid right now. Myth number 1 is that every green card holder must register with the government by March 15th or risk deportation. That is completely false. There is no mass registration requirement and no universal deadline. Myth number 2 is that if you traveled outside the United States at any time recently, you are now in danger of losing your green card. That is also false. Normal, reasonable travel has always been allowed and continues to be allowed. Taking a vacation, visiting family, attending a wedding, or going on a short work trip does not put your status at risk. Myth number 3 is that immigration authorities are randomly selecting green card holders for removal. That is not true either. Immigration actions are based on specific individual circumstances, not random decisions. Another common myth is that you need to hire someone immediately to protect yourself from this supposed deadline. In reality, if you have not received any official notice, there is nothing to respond to and no action required. Many scammers take advantage of fear by offering unnecessary services, so please be careful. Headlines and social media posts are not official government instructions. The only thing that matters is direct communication from USCIS or CBP addressed specifically to you. So, what should you do to stay safe and prepared as a green card holder? The The good news is that protecting your status is usually very simple if you follow a few basic steps. First, always make sure your green card is valid and not expired. If it is close to expiring, apply for renewal as early as possible, because processing times can be long. Second, if you plan to be outside the United States for more than 6 months, consider applying for a re-entry permit before you leave. This document shows immigration authorities that you intend to keep the U.S. as your permanent home, even if you need to be abroad for a long period. Third, keep records that prove your life is based in America. Things like tax returns, lease agreements, mortgage statements, pay stubs, school records for your children, and utility bills all help show that the United States is truly your primary residence. Most people never need to show these documents, but having them organized can make a huge difference if questions ever come up. And fourth, if you ever do receive an official notice from any immigration agency, never ignore it. Read it carefully, respond on time, and if you are unsure what it means, speak with a qualified immigration attorney. Following these simple steps will protect you far better than panicking over internet rumors ever could. Let's also talk about the difference between honest mistakes and intentional problems, because this is something many people worry about. Immigration law understands that real life is complicated. Families get sick, jobs change, emergencies happen, and sometimes people need to be outside the United States longer than they originally planned. If you left the country planning to return in a few months, but ended up staying longer because a parent became ill or because of an unexpected job situation, that does not automatically mean you have abandoned your green card. What matters most to immigration authorities is your intent. Did you always plan to return to the United States and continue living here permanently? If the answer is yes, then in most cases, you can explain your situation and resolve any concerns. The best way to protect yourself in those situations is to be honest and to keep evidence that shows your ties to America. Documents like tax filings, bank accounts, property leases, employment letters, or anything that proves you maintained a life here can be very helpful. Immigration officers are human beings. They know that life does not always go exactly as planned. What they are looking for is whether you genuinely consider the United States your home. On the other hand, there is a big difference between an unexpected situation and deliberately trying to keep a green card while actually living permanently in another country. If someone intentionally moves abroad for years, builds their main life there, and only returns to the United States occasionally just to keep their status, immigration authorities can see that pattern very clearly. Trying to hide that reality or provide false information would be considered fraud, and that can lead to serious consequences. But that is very different from someone who had a legitimate reason to be away and can explain it honestly. I want you to understand this distinction so you do not automatically assume the worst about your own situation. Most green card holders are simply living normal lives, traveling when they need to, and doing their best to follow the rules. If that describes you, then you are not the target of these notices, and you are not in danger. The immigration system may be strict, but it is not designed to punish people who are acting in good faith. It is designed to address cases where someone has clearly given up living in the United States while still trying to hold on to permanent resident status. Now, let's talk about travel, because this is another area where so many people are feeling unnecessary anxiety. Being a green card holder does not mean you are trapped inside the United States. You are absolutely allowed to travel. You are allowed to visit your home country, see your family, attend weddings and funerals, go on vacations, and even take temporary work assignments abroad. None of that puts your status in danger, as long as you are still living primarily in the United States. The problems only begin when travel turns into long-term absence without proper planning. As a general guideline, trips shorter than 6 months are usually not an issue at all. Trips longer than 6 months can raise questions, and trips close to a year or more almost always require extra explanation or documentation. That is why planning ahead is so important. If you know in advance that you will need to be outside the U.S. for an extended period, the smartest thing you can do is apply for a re-entry permit before you leave. That simple step tells immigration authorities, I still consider America my permanent home. I just need to be away temporarily. Many people worry that needing to travel for work or to care for family will automatically ruin their immigration status. But that is not true. There are legal tools designed specifically for those real-life situations. The key is not to ignore the rules or assume everything will be fine without preparation. Responsible planning protects you. Panic and rumors do not. I also want to address a few groups of people who are completely safe from this issue because they are often confused by these headlines as well. If you are already a United States citizen, none of this applies to you at all. Once you become a citizen, you cannot lose that status simply because you travel or even live abroad. You can spend years outside the United States if you choose to, and your citizenship remains secure. The only extremely rare exception would be a case where someone committed serious fraud during the citizenship process. But honest, law-abiding citizens have nothing to worry about. This situation also does not apply to people who are currently waiting for a green card or waiting for a citizenship interview. If you are in the middle of the immigration process, following the rules, maintaining your legal status, and responding to any requests from USCIS, you are doing exactly what you are supposed to do. Headlines about green card holders being questioned do not affect applicants who are still in line waiting for approval. I know that when you are already dealing with paperwork, interviews, and long processing times, any scary immigration news can feel personal, but it is important to separate what actually applies to your case from what does not. Most of the people watching right now fall into one of these safe categories. Either you are a normal green card holder living your life in the United States, or you are a citizen, or you are an applicant following the legal process. For all of those groups, there is no March 15th deadline hanging over your head. Let's take a step back for a moment and look at the bigger picture, because understanding how the immigration system really works can help remove a lot of fear. The US immigration system is complicated, and yes, it can feel slow and frustrating, but it is not random and it is not chaotic. There are clear laws, clear procedures, and clear rights that protect people throughout the process. When immigration authorities have a concern about someone's status, they do not suddenly appear at your door and remove you without warning. That is simply not how the system operates. Everything happens through official notices, opportunities to respond, and legal processes. If a question arises about whether a green card holder has abandoned their residence, the person is given a chance to explain their situation and provide evidence. There are timelines, hearings, and in many cases, the ability to appeal decisions. Due process is built into the system. That means you have rights, you have time, and you have options. The idea that millions of lawful permanent residents could suddenly be forced to report or face immediate removal is not realistic and not legal. What is happening right now is routine enforcement of long-standing rules, not a new emergency targeting ordinary immigrants. I know that waiting for any kind of immigration decision can feel overwhelming. Many of you are dealing with long processing times for green card renewals, citizenship applications, or visa petitions. USCIS has huge backlogs, and people often wait months or even more than a year for updates. That silence can be stressful, especially when scary headlines start appearing. But delays do not mean denials. A long wait does not mean something is wrong with your case. Most of the time, it simply means the agency is working through an enormous number of applications. If you have filed for something and you are waiting, the best thing you can do is check your case status online. Respond quickly to any requests for evidence and be patient. Millions of people are in the same situation right now. Families are waiting, spouses are waiting, workers are waiting, and eventually those approvals do come. The immigration process often feels like a long road, with very little information along the way, but the road does move forward. I want you to remember that frustration and fear are normal feelings, but they should not be confused with actual danger. Most people who follow the rules and stay honest with the system get through it successfully, even if it takes longer than they hoped. I want you to take a moment now to speak directly to those of you who have been feeling nervous, confused, or even afraid because of everything you have seen online. Immigration is not just paperwork and policies. It is your life, your family, your future, and your sense of security. When you hear words like removal or deadline, it can shake you to your core. That reaction is completely human. Many of you came to this country with dreams, worked hard, followed the rules, paid your taxes, and built a real life here. The idea that all of that could suddenly be at risk because of a scary headline is enough to make anyone anxious. But I want you to remember something important. Fear spreads much faster than facts. Every time there is a confusing immigration update, social media fills with worst-case scenarios, and those stories travel further than the truth. Most of the time, the reality is far calmer than the rumors. You are not alone in feeling overwhelmed. Millions of immigrants go through these same worries, and the vast majority of them are doing absolutely nothing wrong. If you are living your life responsibly, following the rules, and staying informed, you are already doing exactly what you are supposed to do. Do not let internet panic make you question everything you have worked so hard to build. So let's bring everything together and make this as simple and clear as possible. The March 15th deadline that you have been hearing about is not a universal requirement for green card holders. There is no mass reporting rule, no new law, and no sudden order that applies to everyone. The only people who need to take action are those who have received an official personalized notice from immigration authorities asking them to respond by a specific date. If you have not received such a notice, then there is nothing for you to do. Normal travel does not put your status at risk. Living your everyday life in the United States does not put your status at risk. Vacations, family visits, and short trips abroad are completely fine. Problems only arise when someone spends extremely long periods of time outside the country without proper documentation and without maintaining real ties to the United States. Even in those situations, the process begins with a notice and an opportunity to explain. The system includes due process, timelines, and chances to resolve concerns. Nothing happens automatically, and nothing happens without warning. The most important things you can do are simple. Keep your green card valid, plan long trips carefully, maintain proof that you live in the US, and respond promptly to any official communication. If you follow those basic steps, you are protecting yourself in the best way possible. As we finish today, I want to leave you with this final thought. Immigration headlines will come and go. Policies will change, processing times will go up and down, and there will always be new rumors circulating online. But your peace of mind should not depend on every breaking news alert. What matters most are facts, not fear. If you ever feel uncertain about something you hear, pause before reacting, check official sources, look for reliable information, and remember that most viral stories are designed to get attention, not to provide clarity. If this video helped you understand the situation and brought you even a little bit of relief, I would truly appreciate it if you considered subscribing to the channel so you can receive calm, honest updates in the future. Feel free to leave a comment with any questions or topics you would like me to cover next. I read them and I do my best to address what matters most to you. Thank you for taking the time to watch and for trusting me to explain something so important. Above all, remember this: stay informed, stay prepared, but do not let rumors steal your confidence or your peace. You have come too far and worked too hard to live in fear. Take care of yourself. Keep building your life with confidence, and I will see you in the next update.